Yo, 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 yo. What's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads out there? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman?
Mr. Weedman?
How the hell are you?
Fantastic.
I love it. Love it. Hey, everyone out there in the world of weed. Hopefully you're doing great. Mr. and Mrs. Weedman have a little story to tell you. So we are into this show called Succession on HBO. It is now season 3, and it is a great show. We watched the season finale last night. I won't throw any spoilers, but very, 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 very disappointed that it's over because it is such a good show. And if you haven't watched it, I suggest you do. If you like, what kind of show is that? Drama?
Suspense. It's drama. Yeah.
It's good.
It's
good.
Yeah.
I suggest you watch it. Anyway, last week, though, Sunday night, I was pretty baked. We had eaten an edible, and we had smoked. And we're upstairs watching it, and it was a really intense part of the show, and I was so baked that I was zoned in on the show.
It's like one of those shows where you can't miss a word.
Yes.
They like the way that the way the show is written, they just pack a lot of information in everything that they say, every character, and it's really deep and it's very thought provoking, and you really have to pay attention.
Yes.
And so Mr. Weedman was really paying attention.
Zoned in.
Really zoned in.
Like faded. Zoned in.
And so when I watch shows like this, it's like I need to pause that and like repeat. I need to get every word, right? So I was like, wait, what did they say? And then, so I had a question, and Mr. Weedman wasn't listening. I'm like, wait, what did they say? Like I couldn't keep moving on in the show because I needed to know what they said. And I'm like, I can't even say your name. I was like, Mr. Weedman. And he's not answering. I'm like, Mr. Weedman. He's not answering. I'm like, oh my God. And I kind of looked at him like nothing was moving on him at all. His chest wasn't moving. His eyes were like almost closed because he was laying down watching. And I'm like, really, for a second there, I'm like, is he dead? So I like panicked. I'm like, Mr. Weedman. Oh my gosh. And then he's like, what?
I look at her.
Like, oh
I look at
God.
Mrs. Weedman. I go, why the fuck are you yelling at me?
Why are you yelling at me? I called, like, literally, our faces are, like, 2 feet apart. Oh, my God.
We were laughing.
And he was in such a zone.
I had to rewind
Holy
it
shit.
because I missed this. I missed the part because Mrs. Weedman was yelling at me.
I really, for a moment, I was like, oh, my gosh.
I was pretty baked.
Is this the moment?
Pretty baked.
Woo.
Pretty baked.
I was very happy he wasn't dead.
I'm glad I wasn't dead either.
Really
got a lot more weed to grow and smoke and shows to
wow.
do. Oh, but Succession's a great show. So sad to see it go for this year. Hopefully it comes out like again pretty quick because 9 episodes is like short.
Do we really watch 9 episodes?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just like so jam packed.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's so good.
Cliffhanger after cliffhanger. So
and the scenery in the show.
Oh, gorgeous.
Amazing.
Smoke it up, Mrs. Weedman.
It's time. What am I
Smoke
smoking?
it up. The Majin Fajita. We smoked this strain last night. I tell you what, it's curing great. We were pretty baked. And it's really, really good. It turned a little it's not the crazy high I thought it would be for a sativa leaning strain. It's like right in the middle. I kind of like it a lot. Yeah. It's a little bit of a thinking strain, but not crazy. So I'm going to smoke it. Mrs. Weedman's going to say hello.
Yeah. I like it. And I would say not super like high energy sativa-ish. Oh boy. But we have a good show. We got all sorts of good articles to share with you guys. And we know that some people have been asking where we source our information from. And really, we're not doing anything that any of our listeners can't do. We're just kind of expediting, the sources or the information. So Mr. Weedman does a lot of research throughout the week. He finds a lot of articles for us. He shares some articles with me. I pick through those, and then we fine-tune what we're going to read. And really, it's just articles that are out there. We don't have any paper publications. It's all stuff that we can find on the internet. And
stuff that we're interested in, too.
Yeah, stuff that we're interested in, stuff that we feel are topics that are general enough that most people could be interested in them. And so we're always open to other topics as well. So if there's something specific that you'd like us to do some looking into and finding articles on and talking about, we are always happy to jump on that.
Yeah, and we're gonna start posting some of the articles on on the pages that wherever you listen to, if you listen to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you'll see references, or Pandora now will put like 4 or 5 articles on there, and that will help you take a look at some of the writers and some of the journalists that we follow and read about. So take a look, and hopefully that helps. And if you ever have any questions, just reach out. And I do appreciate all the DMs and emails we've been getting lately, and I thank you. We've got some new friends in Alabama, Roll Tide, and we got a new friend in Australia that reached out. So thank you down there. We appreciate you. And everybody else who's reached out, we love you out there. So thanks for keeping us going. All right. Let's get the show started, shall we, Mrs. Weedman?
Let's do it.
Found some more research on the fentanyl thing, and this is hopefully the last article I read about this. Hopefully I can, as more comes out, I'll do some more research on it, but I'm kind of at my wit's end on it. So, no fentanyl found in cannabis after all, Vermont police say. This is from High Times, and they asked a doctor about the amount of truth behind stories of cannabis laced with fentanyl. In the latest chapter of the ongoing pattern, a fentanyl-laced cannabis scare in Vermont turned out to be a false alarm. 2 cases of cannabis suspected of being laced with fentanyl in the state were created of the drug by a lab weeks later, after first causing a false positive for the drug. Fentanyl-laced cannabis blamed for overdose in Vermont, local station WCAX reported on November 21st. Brattleboro Police Department, BPD, told the media they revived a patient using CPR and several doses of Narcan, the opioid overdose antidote naloxone, after the cannabis reportedly tested positive for fentanyl. A person told police they hadn't taken any opioids, just cannabis. The news quickly went national. Police searched the residence of Brattleboro on November 30th and said they found several containers of what they believed to be fentanyl-laced cannabis, the Brattleboro Reformer reported. 3 people in I think it's Brattleboro, I think that's how it's pronounced, were arrested in connection to the crime. U.S. News reported on December 2nd. The cannabis was sent to a lab for confirmation of the presence of the drug, police said. But both samples from the 2 incidents turned out to have no fentanyl after all. The seized cannabis in both incidents was submitted to a forensic laboratory where testing was conducted, the police department said in a statement. BPD was notified no fentanyl was found in the cannabis in either case. BPD stands by the previous public safety advisory that it's wise for consumers of cannabis to know the source of the history of any cannabis they ingest, the department added. Vermont legalized recreational cannabis in 2018 for adults 21 and over, and the topic has been frequently headlined. The same thing happened a year ago in New York State when officials said they found the drug in cannabis, and then a week or so later determined it wasn't. Non-pharmaceutical fentanyl has been found mixed into cannabis in New York City, the city health department clarified. Has not been found, sorry. The New York State Department of Health also clarified it's unlikely to be in weed. Harvard-trained Peter Grinspoon, MD, is an internist and medical cannabis specialist at Massachusetts General Hospital and an instructor at Harvard Medical School. He is author of the book such as Free Refills, A Doctor Confronts His Addiction, and son of cannabis activist Dr. Lester Grinspoon, who we've mentioned on this show multiple times. When unverified leads of fentanyl-laced cannabis emerge, it creates fear, Dr. Grinspoon told High Times. Whenever there's information about drugs, particularly cannabis, which is incredible, it makes it much harder for public health officials to get information that is credible out there. It's like the boy who cried wolf. So it's like the DARE program. They said that cannabis does this, and this, and teenagers didn't believe it because it was against their lived experience. It sort of disqualified their other messages about drugs, which are actually more dangerous, like heroin and alcohol. It just discredits the official source of information. It also confuses people when they get conflicting messages, Dr. Grinspoon said. And Dr. Grinspoon's added, the administering Narcan, however, is not dangerous to a non-opioid user. Is fentanyl-laced pot feasible? One factor is the profitability, whether or not it makes sense financially for a drug dealer to spray fentanyl on cannabis. In addition, it could be extremely wasteful on the part of a drug user to consume the drug in that way. The story is bizarre anyways because it's unclear if you can consume fentanyl in a way by smoking it, Dr. Grinspoon said. Now, I just read an article on the last episode that said that people in the Bay Area are smoking fentanyl. So I'm kind of don't know how I'm feeling about what he's saying about smoking it. But he said some drugs you can smoke, like cocaine, freebase does crack, but fentanyl tends to disintegrates starting around 500 degrees and is fully disintegrates at about 1,000 degrees. When you smoke, you're talking about 2,000 degrees. He didn't completely rule out the credibility of these stories. Maybe you can absorb some of it, he said, but it's not really an obvious way for people to be ingesting fentanyl. Fentanyl, however, is readily available on the streets and is frequently and dangerously mislabeled as other opioids. At the same time, fentanyl is turning up in all kinds of places where it hasn't before. Something like 2/3 of the pills people are buying on the streets, Dr. Grinspoon said. Oxycodones, Vicodins now have fentanyl in them, which is really awful. A lot of patients are testing positive for fentanyl and they're not on any opioid use. Then it turns out they're on cocaine, and that's where the fentanyl is coming from. So it is true that fentanyl is everywhere, which is awful and dangerous. Taking any sort of opioid off the street is quite literally rolling the dice with the sheer prevalence of fentanyl. Given that fentanyl is particularly everywhere else, it's not difficult to imagine it in cannabis, but at the same time, it doesn't make any sense, Dr. Grinspoon said. Cannabis users aren't per se generally interested in fentanyl. It's always been an urban myth. It's not impossible, but usually turns out to be an urban myth. In the separate incident in Connecticut, a rash overdoses across the state since July may be linked to cannabis laced with fentanyl. A recent overdose in Plymouth is the first lab-confirmed cases of fentanyl mixed with cannabis ever found in Connecticut and potentially across the country. According to the state health commissioner, that case is still developing. So, and I've read about the Connecticut stuff, and I've read about the Michigan. I'm kind of at my wit's end with this and this whole fentanyl cannabis thing. Someone posted, and I follow these guys out of California, and I really like them a lot. They're called the Blacklist, and they posted something that someone said that it's probably a bunch of kids taking fentanyl or opioids and getting really fucked up on it and then blaming it on cannabis because they don't want to get in trouble from their parents, which kind of made sense too. It's so much. It's really like hurting my brain keep on talking about this because I just want to know the truth. And if you, like I said on a few episodes back, if you are fucking putting fentanyl in weed, you're a fucking asshole. So I'll hopefully see more on this and I'll research more and talk more about it. But like I said, it's giving me a headache. Nursing home care.
Yeah. I've got an article here about cannabis being used in concierge nursing services. And could this be a new era for home care? If you're looking for in-home health care in Manhattan, New York, Ambassador Concierge Nurse Management, according to co-founder and CEO Jeannie Marie Boza, said there's almost nothing that they can't do for their elite clientele. Almost because of one missing part, medical cannabis. We have a team of ICU nurses who set up full rehabilitation at home. They do hospice care, manage long-term cases for years on end, and work with patients with cardiac issues. But in almost all of these cases we found there was a use for medical cannabis. That was a pipe dream at first. Though medical cannabis has been legal in New York since 2014, the legal hurdles that came with a concierge nursing company administering medical cannabis proved too much. But with the full legalization of cannabis in the state of New York earlier this year, the possibility of incorporating cannabis into treatment plans for the home care patients suddenly became very real. Now, Ambassador Concierge Nurse Management is launching a pilot program in which staff will administer medical cannabis to qualifying patients after consultation with a cannabis clinician. They will be one of the first concierge nursing companies in the United States to administer medical cannabis. And so far, it's a hit. It's funny because this is not what we went into business to do, Boza said. We just want to be at the bedside, taking care of patients in the best way we know how. And we think that the best way to treat certain conditions, especially orthopedic surgical pain, is not through narcotics, but actually THC and CBD products. We got a call from someone the other day asking to apply because they heard about the pilot program. It does seem to be something people are talking about and telling others about, Boza said. If the pilot program becomes a major draw for customers, Ambassador Concierge may have to hire more staff. Though little clinical research has been done to to determine if medical cannabis can decrease symptoms of anxiety, depression, epilepsy, and Alzheimer's disease, among other conditions, it is regularly reported that it effectively decreases pain related to inflammation, it decreases stress, improves appetite, decreases nausea, and can be used as a sleep aid. While Boza believes medical cannabis could be of use for most of her patients, she says the patients who could use it the most are, in general, seniors. A survey conducted in the spring of 2020 by the National Survey of Drug Use and Health showed the number of adults over 65 using cannabis jumped 75% between 2015 and 2018. When 2.4% of seniors were using cannabis in 2015, 4.2% were using cannabis in 2018. And in 2019, cannabis use among seniors went up to 5%. Another study conducted in October of 2020 indicated that a whopping 61% of surveyed senior citizens who claimed to use cannabis began doing so at the age of 60, mostly to treat common health conditions. Dr. Keith Weinberg, Chief Medical Officer at Cannabis Doctors of New York and advisor for Ambassador Concierge Medical Cannabis Program, says at least 25% of his patients are senior citizens, and more seniors come to his office each year. Cannabis is useful for a number of issues seniors deal with. I think it's a great idea to start administering it through in-home care, and it would be great in retirement communities and nursing homes, Weinberg said. One unique aspect of Ambassador Concierge's pilot program is that nurses will attend medical cannabis appointments with patients, ensuring that they understand how cannabis treatments could fit their needs. They will also accompany clients as they purchase prescribed products and help them apply for medical cannabis cards. The problem I find with medical cannabis is the lack of knowledge that we have on it, Boza said. Western medicine likes the papers and the research, so it's hard to get people on board because there aren't stats on medical cannabis like we have for other treatments. If patients don't have someone like us assisting them through it, I don't know that every patient would ask the questions they need to ask, and I think they need a liaison. Boza said it can be especially hard for seniors to accept medical cannabis as treatment since they grew up during a time when there was significant amount of stigma and misinformation surrounding the drug. Marijuana had such a bad rap in most of their lifetimes. A lot of older people don't want to touch it, Boza said. So I think it'll be especially important when we're working with seniors to be able to explain how it works and make an argument for why this could be better than the default of oxycodone or Percocet, and going through all of the issues that come with prescribed painkillers. And on that note, so I think this is pretty cool, and I'm sure that this is, they're pioneers of this. I'm sure it will become very common.
It should be standard.
Yeah. And on that note of prescribed painkillers, if you have not watched Dope Sick, holy cow. I mean, if you didn't already have some sort of awareness about what a problem we have in is it just U.S.? I would imagine other countries have some variety of it.
An epidemic.
I mean, we have a real problem, and things have to change, and cannabis could really be a game changer if physicians would get on board with it.
I think it's great.
I
think they will more once it goes federally legal and more testing comes. But I mean, doctors.
I think that
watching that Dope Sick really made, and we've watched a lot of shows about opioids and the epidemic of it all, and some other shows also. But watching what that does to your body versus what cannabis can do for your body versus what harm opioids do. I mean, it's like night and day. Those people can have a life still and be able to function instead of loading them up with all those.
It's just insane how I knew that they were highly addictive, and I knew that it happened quickly, that your body becomes dependent on them. The way that they dramatize the scenarios of these people's lives that are just turned upside down. And these aren't people that were drug addicts. These aren't people that had dysfunctional lives. These were hardworking, normal people that got hurt and got prescribed a medication that they were told won't become addictive. And their lives are just flipped all over the place. And these people are acting like straight up hardcore drug users.
Yeah.
Over oxycodone or OxyContin
Oxycontin.
Oxy. It's just freaking nuts. So it is, I think, something that should be a part of
testing and education. And I feel bad
yeah.
because a lot of them won't use it because of the drugs on war and reefer madness and all the stuff that they learned from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s and 80s and 90s. It was all bad. Drugs are bad, McKay.
Well, and I think that because of that, all the stigmas and the fact that there isn't research, I understand a doctor's not going to say, go smoke some weed. It'll make you feel better and don't take that medicine, because they do. They're clinicians. What they learn is based on research and development and tried and true procedures and improved procedures, and it's all data and factual. And cannabis isn't. Not that it couldn't be. It hasn't had the opportunity to be. And so it's hard for them to kind of flip their switch, or a lot of it might just simply have to do with liability. They don't want the liability of not giving someone a medicine and giving them cannabis, which is a medicine, instead, and then something goes awry. Right? They just don't want to lose their practice. Right. So I think there may be more doctors that are okay with it or willing to learn a little more about it, but from a liability perspective, they just don't want to embrace it yet.
They should smoke.
But they'll give their patient oxy.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah. Because there's data.
Yep.
But, oh my God, you have to watch it.
Yeah, you have to watch Dope Sick if you haven't seen it yet. It's a good one.
And I'm not generalizing. I mean, I'm saying these things in a very general way. Every doctor doesn't think that way. And every doctor doesn't overprescribe. But there are some that do.
Right.
So
Crazy.
A
few years back, Bigfoot, my brother, we were talking about, he started vaping his flower way longer than me. He preferred it that way for a long time. And he found a way to use the vape, the bud that's been vaped already, and he started collecting it. And then he found a bunch of other people that used vapes, and they would collect all their weed, and he would turn it into butter. And it's basically decarbed weed, and it was so much stronger. He said, I remember he was making his Rick Simpson oil out of it and was fucking people up. Mm-hmm. So I read an article because we talked about vapes a few episodes back, and people were hitting me up. Here's something you can do with the already vaped bud, and you're gonna take you a while to collect it. So unless you like smoke all day every day, or a bunch of people that vape, start asking them to hold that extra that bud that's in the vape that they already used, and start collecting in a baggie for you or a jar, and give it to you. And I'm gonna hit you up and tell you what you can do with it. One of the most popular trends with cannabis world is vaping dry herbs. It's easy to see why people find vaping dry herb appealing, considering the fact that it's healthier than traditional forms of smoking and more discreet. Another reason why people have gravitated towards vaping as a primary method of consumption is because it's easier for people to conserve their cannabis.
Can I interject?
Sure.
For maybe some people who are new to some of this terminology, when Mr. Weedman's talking about vaping in this article, it's vaporizing, not your vape pen, not like your Juuls and those kind of things.
Right.
This is vaporizing, where you heat the cannabis and then you smoke the vapor, or you inhale the vapor that comes off of it. So it's a special piece.
Yeah, we talked about it a few episodes back.
Right. So, sorry, go ahead.
Vaping also provides users with the opportunity to get more out of their cannabis than traditional methods allowed, which we talked about. Mrs. Weedman did so great on another episode. After initially vaping cannabis, it turns into a brownish green color, which may lead some people to believe that it should be disposed of like ashes, although that's likely a common misconception. Weed that's been vaporized can still be repurposed in a number of ways that are enjoyable. Here are a few examples. Edibles, like I told you that my brother Bigfoot does. Already vaporized bud can be essentially an ingredient for making canna butter, which is necessary for making pop brownies, cookies, and other cannabis-infused goodies. The process for making cannabis-infused butter using already vaped bud is fairly simple, too. Making canna butter entails already adding already vaped bud into melted butter. After it's been added, cook the mixture on a low 45 minutes, stirring to prevent the mixture from burning. Once the time is up, strain the butter into a glass container, then save and store the canna butter for when you're ready to make a batch of feel-good brownies. My brother used the magic butter machine but he was getting a lot. So, coffee and teas. Since a lot of people associate cannabis with relaxation at the end of a long day, the thought of adding cannabis to morning coffee or tea could be off-putting. Even though it's unconventional, adding a ready vape bud can lead to interesting results that will lead you to no longer crave the coffee or teas you normally crave. Similar to making canna butter with the already vape bud, the process for using it makes cannabis-infused coffee or teas is fairly easy too. All it takes is adding it to the coffee grounds prior to brewing it. While the effects of cannabis-infused coffee may make people feel better than a regular cup of joe, the taste likely won't measure up. That's why people planning on making cannabis-infused coffee benefit from adding flavor enhancers such as French vanilla or caramel creamer. I know a lot of people like that, but too sugary for me. Spliffs. Another use for already vape bud that may be fairly obvious is smoking them. While smoking already vape bud is an option, it won't provide the same sensation as fresh, non-vape bud. Additionally, it may taste worse than you're used to. That's why a mixture of fresh and already vape bud is preferred combo. Spliffs rolled with a combination of already vape bud and non-vape bud provide both the taste and the sensation that cannabis smokes are accustomed to. Also, a spliff is too, and I don't suggest you do this, is because some people might think spliff is different than what I just said. A spliff is when you add tobacco and cannabis to a cigarette. I knew somebody had smoked like that out of a bong. That made their bong look so gross. The benefits of vaporizing bud are impactful enough to change your relationship with weed entirely. That's especially the case after understanding the possibilities that come with knowing how to repurpose it. Knowing these hacks can be instrumental in helping cannabis users save money by extending their weed stash. Oh, that's pretty interesting. Be careful, though, when you make edibles with it, because it's stronger. Like I said, my bro used to knock people the fuck out when he made that root beer.
Oh, the root beer.
The root beer would knock some people out. So be careful. Start low and go slow. So there's a new wave. Powder. Cannabis powder. Tell us the future.
Yeah. So I struggled a little bit with this article because it was a little bit all over the place. So I worked on it a little bit. I added some data. I went in and found some more information on it, but this is interesting. So the article is cannabis powder the wave of the future? Well, cannabis powder is often used in making cannabis edibles and is gaining popularity and becoming a major part of the legal cannabis market. In the past, edibles were commonly made using oil, tinctures, and extracts. If you buy a pre-infused snack, you should recognize that companies are mass producing them. Current infusing methods mean that your edibles could have a large margin of error when it comes to the THC dosage on the package. The edibles may not have the ingredients completely diffused throughout, and one bite might be more potent than the next. There's no way to tell, which is understandably annoying for some people. This can pose problems, too, especially for medical cannabis users. Many people are now turning to cannabis powder to make their edibles. So right there, I was like, well, if you're still putting something into whatever you're making, it's only like some people don't stir their batters, right?
You do.
I stir. But, I mean, it still doesn't mean that there's not a clump somewhere and that clump is going to bake into one cookie and that cookie is going to be stronger than the next one. I mean, there's just natural inaccuracies that are going to happen.
Right.
So right there, when they talked about now, like cannabis powder is going to be better than oils and tinctures and butters, I don't understand how. You're still mixing it into a big vat of other ingredients. So anyway, it's a new technology, so we'll see. But going on, researchers checked 50 different brands of companies that make cannabis edibles in a recent study. Those results were shocking. Only about 17% of those products were labeled with the correct dose of cannabis that was infused inside of them. But again, I kind of back up the creators of these edibles because I don't know how they make it so that every piece might be accurate. And again, like as science and technology catches up with what the consumers want, they'll find better processes.
But
this is talking about like just regular edible making. This is
Making
not
it at
powders.
home or at a commercial kitchen?
Companies. This is research on companies. Yeah.
Most companies, though, have to get their edibles tested.
Right.
You know, and they declare like that it's the accurate pretty much accurate.
But I mean, they're not they can't obviously test the entire batch, right? Because you have to consume some
Right.
of it. So they're testing, like 1/100th of the batch. They're testing one piece of candy out of the whole batch.
Right.
Well, like one other piece might have a higher potency because that got stirred, like maybe the oil sat on top of that little batch of dough a little longer and that cookie is going to be stronger. That kind of a thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it can happen. So I think that when they put that label on the package, their intention and their testing does say that in fact is what's in there, but there's going to be variances. It's not pharmaceuticals. It's
Right. No,
baked.
I feel you.
It's baked goods.
Yep.
Or cooked candies. Anyway, out of the wrong labels, over half of the products contain fewer cannabinoids than what the package claimed. This is misleading, but not necessarily intentional. With cannabis powder, however, you can measure your own dosage and ingest what you want or need to take. So again, there I get like a little hung up because you can buy tinctures that are just drops. You can buy RSO, that's drops. You know how strong that's going to be, but they're talking about edibles, and then now with having these edibles made with powder. So let's backtrack and explain a little bit more about what cannabis powder is. Well, it's not just cannabis ground up into a fine flour. It is made using dissolvable cannabinoids that are turned into a water-soluble, flavorless powder. This means it can be virtually added to anything, liquid or solid. Furthermore, it doesn't compromise the integrity of the final product. With dissolvable cannabinoids, you can turn anything, even a glass of water, into an edible infusion. Powdered cannabis is still in its infancy as far as research goes. Some companies use ethanol extraction with cannabis and then transform the concentrated product into a powder that's microencapsulated and water-soluble. And as a result, the product is consistently composed of more than 80% THC. Other powders are mostly starch, and they throw off chefs who don't want the taste and consistency of their creations affected by any ingredient that's not THC. Scientists are working to perfect the concentrations and applications of the powder in order to ensure its efficacy as a safe medium for cannabis consumption. The biggest benefit of powder is that it only takes 15 to 20 minutes to take effect. Medical cannabis users prefer this over any other kind of edible, as the effect is more immediate and consistent. Many medical users do not want to wait a long time to get their effects, so they are starting to seek powder over other delivery methods. So how strong can it be? Well, you can take as much of a dose as you want. You can cook or bake with it and add it to your drinks. It can be as strong or as weak as you need it to be. This is the huge benefit for many people because it almost sounds like you're taking like a tablet of this powder.
Right.
Where you're like, a quarter of a teaspoon, you're putting it in your water and you're drinking it. So if you don't enjoy smoking, then you might like using powders in your foods. Overall, users say that the powder is not as strong as using cannabis oil, wax, or shatter. However, it is stronger than natural cannabis flower. And there are plenty of reasons why you might consider using powder as your main method of consuming cannabis. Pre-packaged edibles are usually trying to hide the flavor of cannabis, which becomes almost impossible when you get to higher doses. With the dissolving property of cannabis powder, you can choose exactly how much you want to put in your food and drink, and the taste remains barely detectable, which is very important to many people. The effect is also much faster than edibles, so patients can get better relief from their symptoms quickly. The powder can be absorbed through your mouth and liver, making it take less time to become effective. Powdered cannabis is still being researched. There's a lot of room for growth with the product. In the future, powder may become more widely available, and research might discover many more uses and benefits. So, something to watch out for.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
want to try some powder.
But it makes me just think of like the, like the drops that you can put in your water to flavor it.
Right.
And they make the ones that are
They make those
they
now.
make like THC drink drops.
Right.
Well, like if you squirt up the way that the dosage is on those containers, it's a metered or a measured dose.
Right.
And then you put that into your water or whatever you're going to drink it with. Well, that's super accurate. So how is that different than the powder?
I don't know.
I'm going to learn more. I'll share more later, people. I swear. I want to know more about it.
Yeah. I want
Have you seen it in the Illinois market?
I have not.
No.
Nope.
I haven't seen it. And we've
No.
traveled quite a bit, and I've never
Yeah.
seen it in another dispensary, so we'll have to watch for it.
Yep. Cannabis taxes may generate $12 billion for the U.S. states by 2030, according to Barclays strategist. $12 billion. Phew. Pennsylvania review of vaporized medical cannabis products heat up. They're talking about cannabis vape products, the oils. Controversy over Pennsylvania review of medical cannabis vape products have mushroomed, the regulators warning that some products could be removed from the shelves. Grower processors contemplating legal action against the state and 630,000 plus patients in the dark about what to do. The story has been escalating. Its unprecedented move. State regulators on November 16th gave licensed grower processors 2 weeks to resubmit vaporized cannabis products that contain additives for approval. The order required a detailed list of all ingredients. Just because growers compiled with the submission doesn't mean they agree that the DOH, Department of Health, has the authority it claims over the growers will not pursue legal action, she wrote. And this is from a woman named Cassell, said in an email. Regulators filed up with the email to MMJ patients this week, warning that vape products with additives may not be safe for inhalation, and the products would be removed from shelves if deemed unsafe by the state review. The state wrote that the email it would conduct its review is possible. The email indicated that regulators especially are looking at extremely sourced flavorings or terpenes. State regulators did not respond Friday to MJ Biz Daily request for comment. Meredith Butner, executive director of the Pennsylvania Cannabis Coalition, told MJ Biz Daily on Friday the state's email to patients was pretty unprecedented. Regulators did not take much of a step during the 2019 vape crisis, she noted. You can imagine that the patients are scared, she said. Nothing that patients have been unable to get additional information from the health department. People answering the phone have no idea what they're talking about and about who to route them to. Likewise, the state hasn't provided any additional information to MMJ operators on the front line, dispensary workers, despite formal requests by the Pennsylvania Cannabis Coalition and others. Butner noted that the products in question likely are used in markets all across the country. Developments are pretty troubling, given that there's been no adverse event that has been sparked, the review, she said. This is an evaluation of products they've already approved. What has triggered this is the mystery and frustrating that the state medical cannabis regulators won't share that information. So reading that, I've always told everyone I'd always update stuff on vape products, and I know how well used people like them. I don't use them that much. I do here and there. Still, we've talked about this with the different e-acetate, the pine oil, and then talking about the nickel and the coils. I suggest that everyone needs to move to, what is that? Marble, not marble. Not concrete. There's a new kind of what they're using for vapes now. They're putting in there, and I forgot the name of it. Can you, man? I'm sorry, everybody. I can't remember the name of what the new format. They're taking away the metals, and they're putting it some kind of other.
Are you
stone.
talking about like in the motor, like in the the battery?
Yes, in the battery. I'm sorry, Mrs. Weedman's going to look up. I'll keep on moving on until she finds it. Ohio GOP lawmakers file new cannabis legalization bill. A pair of Republican lawmakers on Thursday filed a bill to legalize cannabis in the state. The new move comes as activists are nearing completion of the first phase of their signature drive for a cannabis legalization initiative. Well, that's good. And I read some more stuff last week about Ohio, so who knows when it'll happen, but at least they're getting stuff on the docket and getting voted on, and we'll see what happens. That Michigan cannabis testing lab wins a split decision over a massive recall. A Michigan cannabis testing laboratory won half of its claims against the state regulators over a November 17th recall. The company said involved almost $230 million worth of flour and 403 retailers. Michigan Court of Claims Judge Christopher Murray ruled that the state cannabis regulators likely acted arbitrarily in ordering a recall against Veritas North in Bay City and Detroit, Fresh Pre's reported. But in a 13-page decision, Murray denied Veritas Laboratories' claim that the state also improperly recalled products at the company facility in Lansing. The state's cannabis regulatory agency said it's compiled with the court order to release an administrative hold on all products tested by Veritas North that were included in the recall. This includes any products that have been substantially retested, regardless of whether those retesting results were passing or failing, the regulatory agency said in a statement. In a decision regarding Veritas North, the judge said there was persuasive evidence about the harm to plaintiffs and well-to-neutral customers who are subjected to the recall impact. The judge wrote that Veritas North was a different situation from the other labs because no samples from Veritas North were included in retesting that in part led to the recall. The decision came after a recent court hearing on the matter. Virtus had filed a lawsuit against the state regulators claiming that products recall against both labs was unjustified, prejudiced, and retaliatory. The recall was prompted by concerns that Virtus methods were inaccurate or unreliable, Michigan regulators previously said. The lawsuit alleges that the state regulators questioned the company's testing because the agency was using the lab's competitors to check Virtus results. The plot thickens in Michigan. This jerk-off Nebraska governor partners with prohibitionist group on ad opposing medical cannabis for Nebraska. This is the guy that said that cannabis will kill your kids if they legalize it in their state. Ugh. This dude is just terrible. I don't even want to mention his name. Let's see here. South Dakota voters disapprove of governor's handling of cannabis legalization, polls find. Come on, South Dakota, man. Anti-cannabis Indiana governor backs proposal to set up legalization rules if federal prohibition ends. So we talked the last couple episodes about Indiana, Democrats and Republicans putting together some bills to try to regulate it medically. Democrats want to do it both. Well, this governor here in Indiana is saying that if it goes federally legal, he would sign the bill. So I hope that happens. So Governor Eric Holcomb, please, whether it becomes federally legal or not, pass it in the great state of Indiana. Kentucky governor leaning toward medical cannabis legalization. Also, I want to say in Kentucky, our hearts go out to you. What happened with the tornadoes down there? We're praying for you down there. Hopefully everything goes well. Hopefully praying for you in every way possible. So, but come on, Kentucky governor. I know you got a lot on your plate right now, but if after everything's taken care of and the people of Kentucky are safe and get homes back and get food and medical, hopefully we can legalize cannabis in your state. Kentucky governor also wants to let farmers sell cannabis to other states. The only way you're going to be able to do that is if it goes federally legal and you can cross state lines. But good call there, Kentucky governor. Vermont, eschews restrictive adult use cannabis labeling potency cap. So he said no. So that's good. Take those guys, those doctors that were trying to change it around. Cannabis Advocacy Group announces it has collected 15,000 signatures for ballot measure. And this was South Dakotians for Better Cannabis Laws, which we just talked about how they were pissed at the governor. So they got some signatures to get proposed for 22 recreational cannabis legalization initiative. So hopefully South Dakota, the governor gets her act together. This gets back on the ballot. You get that, collect those goals of 25,000 signatures, and it goes full what you needed done. Tired of talking about it. Montana scrambles to finish rules by January 1st, recreational cannabis launch. This should have been done already to get this going. Joe Montana, come on, baby. They need their weed up there. Arizona recreational cannabis sales hit record high monthly high, state reports. October, Arizona cannabis sales in 2021 for rec was 57 million, and in med was 63 million. Damn. Some money. Boston University hosts first ever cannabis science fair on December 11th. Good for Boston. What's the one thing you don't do on Facebook?
I don't go live. For many reasons.
Tell us about this woman. Oh, I remember it. Hold on.
What? Okay.
Ceramic.
Ah.
Ceramic holders.
I was looking everywhere.
Ceramic. They're a lot of the new vaporizers coming out for cannabis is going to have a ceramic instead of. So I think maybe if you could smoke oils out of ceramic instead of the nickel, that might help the leaching. So
yeah, there's plenty of articles out there.
I was stoned there for a minute.
I could find lots of articles about the toxicity of the vaporizers, leaching heavy metals and things. That was fine. I could not find anything to help you.
Ceramic is what they're going to start putting into dry herb vaporizers. They're already starting, I should say. And
that makes sense.
Instead of having that nickel heat up and leach
but
into smoke. But I wonder if you can use that for oils. I mean, you should be able to. Ceramic can burn, right?
Yeah, but a ceramic would absorb oil.
Well,
I don't know.
Hopefully you can figure it out. So anyway, we talked about that on that. But one last thing about the vape oils and stuff like that. That's why you don't buy it off the street. You make sure you get it from dispensaries, but still, with states still not unsure what's going into those. Just be careful. But take it away, Mrs. Weedman, what you do and do not do on Facebook.
Yeah. Don't go live, people. Definitely don't go live when you're high. Well, this woman, I think there's a lot more going on here than weed. She was arrested after preparing to smoke weed live on Facebook. Yep, she was. A woman was arrested on several drug charges after authorities received an anonymous tip that she was preparing to smoke weed during a Facebook Live post from her North Carolina home. Around 9:15 a.m. on this particular Thursday morning, the Columbus County Sheriff's Office was notified that Miss Keene, who was 33 at the time, or this year, was preparing cannabis. That sounds so criminal, doesn't it? She was preparing cannabis to be smoked while live streaming on Facebook. Oh my gosh, people. So that was in a news release.
I just want to know
from
who
the
ratted
sheriff's
this poor
office.
girl
I know,
out.
right?
That's all I want to know. This poor woman, this poor person.
She's preparing to smoke cannabis.
Oh my god!
Of course, the article said marijuana. She was preparing to smoke marijuana.
It's probably spelled with an H.
Well,
too.
investigators reviewed the social media account and were able to observe the video. A spokesperson from the department wrote into the release. Investigators and Heat deputies went to the home of Miss Keene and spoke to her about the narcotics that they saw on the video, which she did not deny. Go, Miss Keene. Investigators found and collected unspecified amounts of weed and a controlled prescription medicine that wasn't prescribed to Keene. So here we're going all downhill. It's getting harder to support you, Miss Keene, during her home search. According to the news release, while in a patrol vehicle following her arrest, Keene allegedly threatened to purposely urinate in the vehicle. She was taken to jail and charged with possession. Get this: intent to manufacture, sell, or deliver a controlled, scheduled substance, because she had prescription meds that weren't hers. She was charged for possession of drug paraphernalia and damage to government property for peeing. She didn't pee. It just said that she was gonna pee.
Maybe she did.
Maybe she peed. Her bond was set at $4,000. We want to. This is coming from the sheriff. We want to thank that citizen that reported their concerns to us, no matter how large or small.
Rat.
Yeah. In North Carolina, cannabis is illegal, and we have a duty to enforce all law, no matter the opinion. We have collected some marijuana that has contained fentanyl, go figure, and other deadly drugs and narcotics. Well, this girl had all sorts of shit going on, apparently. But here we are with this whole stupid fentanyl thing.
Right.
But she had prescribed drugs that weren't hers, so she had a whole cocktail of shit going on here. You know, I don't know. But I do defend the cannabis part of it.
Yes, 100%.
I don't defend the peeing in the cop car.
I don't defend.
Funny,
I don't defend the rat to the ratted her out.
Yeah, what the heck?
Mind your own business.
I mean, go knock on the door, and obviously, maybe the lady's like in crisis mode. Go help her. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rat. Ugh.
So, yeah. Don't go on Facebook Live.
Well, unless you're in a legal state.
In North Carolina with weed.
Facebook doesn't like weed for some reason. I don't know what their problem is.
It's the meta.
Ugh.
It's the meta life. And could you imagine the meta world? See, you don't want to go there.
Yeah.
There's no cannabis.
Not in Facebook.
No meta world.
Here is some international news, and I'm so fired up about it right now. Mm-hmm. Remember I said Luxembourg was going to be that we're going to be the first country in Europe. Malta set to become first country in Europe to legalize cannabis.
The race is on. Look at they're like
this week.
See?
This week, Malta is set to become the first country in Europe to legalize cannabis, with lawmakers expected to pass a reform bill on Tuesday that the president has pledged to sign into law. Cool. The legislation would allow adults 18 and older to possess up to 7 grams of cannabis, cultivate up to 4 plants, home grow for personal use. Up to 50 grams of homegrown cannabis could be stored at home. While there wouldn't be a commercial market per se, nonprofit cooperatives would be able to cultivate cannabis and distribute it to members. That's pretty dope. Nonprofit cooperatives.
Well, a farm co-op.
Yeah,
so you could have like a community garden.
I like it. Possession of more than 7 grams but less than 28 grams by an adult would be punishable by 50 to 100 euros. Fine without the threat of jail time or criminal record. Woohoo! Minors who were found in possession of cannabis would be referred to a commission for justice for care plan rather than face arrest. Woohoo! MP Owen Sisi, sponsored, I probably butchered that, sorry, sponsored of the legalization, told The Guardian that there's a wave of understanding now that the hard, fast approach against cannabis users are disproportionate, unjust, and it was rendering a lot of suffering to people who are leading exemplary lives. I'm very glad that Malta would be the first country in Europe which would put words in a statute on a comprehensive manner with the regulatory authority, Bonisi, who serves as the government ministers for equality, research, and innovation.
Mr. Weedman, are you high?
A little bit. President George Vella is expected to sign the legalization into law by the weekend, Bonisi told The Guardian. Cannabis clubs that would be authorized under the bill could have as many as 500 members and would be limited to distributing 7 grams per day to each member. Damn, that's awesome. With a maximum of 50 grams per month. Pretty good. They could also distribute up to 20 cannabis seeds. Look at this, per member each month. Wow. Now, Malta. The legalization itself says the purpose it aimed at following for the balance between individual freedom in the limited and responsible personal use of cannabis and other social requirements. Malta. While there was a debate among lawmakers about whether to set a THC limit on cannabis products, they unlimitedly decided against the notion because you will be creating a new market for the black market then. So smart. What we need to do is to educate people and inform them day after day that cannabis is the greatest plant in the world. I just threw that in there, sorry. Malta's opposition National Party attempted to get Parliament Petition Committee to hold a hearing after submitting a series of complaints about the legalization proposal, but the panel's chairman rejected the request last week. The opposition party's leader has argued that the Labour Party government's bill is an attempt to shore up votes by advancing the popular policy. Hey, man, they're just giving what the people want. Mm-hmm. They want cannabis, and they're doing it smartly, if that's even a word. Malta, the smallest member of the nation of the European Union, stands to beat out several other countries in the region where legalization could soon be enacted. And we were talking about Luxembourg and Germany in a few episodes ago. I'm so excited for Malta. Don't forget that name. They'll be the 3rd country to legalize cannabis for your personal use and experience. I like that bill. I'm so it just lit me up. I'm so excited. So when I hear countries and states and legalizing it for people to use and be able to home grow and not letting businesses per se, corporations take over, and letting cooperatives grow and treat their patients, and does my heart proud. Malta. So fucking excited. I want to go to your country one day and smoke some fine cannabis. Luxembourg, a little too short there, Luxembourg, but I'm still proud of you. Publishes details on domestic recreational cannabis plan. Good for you. Get this passed. You'll be the 4th country. Luxembourg.
Is it possible that they could beat Malta to the chase?
No, they're going to do it on Tuesday, which is Monday the 13th, and the legislation signing it and then getting it to the desk.
4 business days.
Yeah, basically. Sure. Yeah,
get to it, Luxembourg.
But they're next, and then Germany, and then it's gonna. Here's the thing. Remember we watched Dope Sick?
Yeah.
And they were trying to get Oxycontin into Germany, and they kept on trying to. I'm sorry, I'm throwing a spoiler alert out there, but I'm going to talk about it because they said this, and it made sense to me now. Germany has some of the strictest laws when it comes to narcotics, and they said if they got it through in Germany, it would spread.
It's an open door for everything.
For everybody in Europe.
Because if Germany said okay, then every other country, they don't have to do. It's kind of like when Starbucks moves onto a corner. Then every other business follows because Starbucks already did the research. They're not going to put their stores. They do so much research. Kind of the same thing.
Right.
Like we're going to open in Germany, then everybody just follows suit. Boom.
We
have Europe.
So if Germany legalizes cannabis, I wonder if the rest of Europe will take suit and start. You'll see country boom, 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 because then they could just trade. Because Germany wants to be one of the biggest exporters of cannabis and importers of cannabis. I don't know, man. This is after learning what I learned on Dope Sick, and if that is 100% true, if you're from Germany and you listen, to the Weedman 420 Chronicles, reach out to us and give me some of this information, because if I'm right from what we watched on a movie that was based on a true story, and if that's true what goes on in Germany, this could be huge for cannabis. Go. Top weed stuff, experiences, gifts.
Yeah,
You like getting gifts?
I do. I like. Who doesn't like a gift? I mean, really.
Tell us about it.
Yeah. Well, I've got top weed-infused experiences to gift the cannabis enthusiast in your life. According to the latest statistics, about 55 million American adults identify as active cannabis users. If you know one of them, the hunt for the perfect gift this holiday season may include a visit to your local dispensary. But before you buy that special someone in your life an accessory or strain they may already have, why not give them an experience? As Canna tourism grows around the country, there are an increasing number of cannabis-themed tours, hotels, restaurants, and more, all of which will surprise and delight even the most experienced stoner. We rounded up a few of these dank experiences that we would like to help to give you as great holiday gift ideas. So how about a cannabis tour? If you want something truly unique for the cannabis enthusiast in your life, look no further than cannabis tours. These recently popular experiences take cannabis enthusiasts to a higher level of travel by providing cannabis at the beginning of their excursion or encouraging tourists to bring their own weed. Then you'll generally jump on a tour bus where consumption is allowed and visit cannabis-related destinations such as cannabis grow houses or a ranch. Cannabis tours are most common in California and Oregon, but you'll find them in other states where cannabis is legal too. I just did it.
Where'd it go?
I said Oregon.
Where'd it go?
Oregon. It sounds like I'm saying organ. I don't play the organ. I'm going to Oregon.
Oregon.
I think that's your opinion.
No! Because the person from Oregon that taught me how to say it when I said Oregon said where to go.
Yeah, but someone might say you say Chicago. But that's not how you say Chicago. You say Chicago. It depends on where you're from.
Tell us about this.
All right. How about visiting a cannabis museum? You could buy a ticket for any friend who might be a history buff and also a stoner. And there is a Weed Maps Museum of Weed in Los Angeles. It opened in 2019. The Museum of Weed is an interactive tour through the history of weed, telling the stories of growers, stoners, and activists on their journey to legalizing marijuana. Along the way, visitors will learn about the impact of drugs prohibition and various social groups throughout history. You could buy your friend or family member a cannabis CBD massage, cannabis or CBD massage. Does the pot lover in your life need less activity and more relaxing? A cannabis massage could be just the thing. A cannabis massage is just like a regular massage, except the massage oil is infused with CBD or cannabis. Among other benefits, a cannabis massage, I think you should be able to smoke a joint before that cannabis massage, right?
To a tree.
Yeah. A cannabis massage helps to decrease pain, nourish the skin, and relax your muscles. Plus, cannabis and CBD oils have anti-inflammatory properties. You could visit a cannabis-friendly city abroad. If you and your weed-smoking pal want to go on a bit afield, you could look into some great Canna tourism options outside of the United States. Barcelona, for instance, isn't all bullfights and tapas. It also has a thriving network of cannabis social clubs. Barcelona and Amsterdam are well known worldwide for their appreciation for and tolerance of cannabis, and there are plenty of spots to smoke and purchase cannabis throughout these cities. Whether you're celebrating Christmas or Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, or Festivus, there's a weed-related experience that may make the perfect gift this year. Whether the canna lover in your life wants to travel or just needs some R&R, there's sure to be an experience that they'll enjoy. Yeah.
Damn, sounds
Fun.
great.
Yeah.
I want to go to LA and go to the weed museum.
I know. I want to go back to Barcelona and eat a bunch of Iberico ham and smoke a joint.
Hell yeah. So now you're talking
That'd be
my
good.
language.
That'll work for me. Go sit on the beach.
There was a lot of rave and news about this last week. An 850-pound weed brownie was made.
Oh, I saw that. It
Didn't
was
look
huge.
very good.
It didn't look pretty.
20,000 milligrams of THC.
That's just a little bit. I wonder if somebody like was just bold enough to just walk up and shove their face in it.
It took 1,344 eggs, 81 pounds of flour, and lots of sugar, and blah 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 blah. And you're gonna go to cloud 9.
Oh my gosh.
His thing was huge, and it didn't. It looked fudgy.
Yeah,
but I wonder how moist it could be.
It looked cakey. It looked like a good gooey brownie.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, you can't even. It's hard to. It really is challenging. I can bake. It's challenging to make a brownie as good as a box brownie, and it's challenging to make a brownie that's fudgy without being like mushy.
True.
Yeah. So that big old fat thing. That thing was like 3 feet tall.
It was 850 pounds.
That had to be gooey in the middle, like in a bad way.
I wonder if the just everything didn't like. It's a lot to
That's
set.
a lot
to make that set
to bake. Where'd they bake it? Maybe they made like a big open fire.
It's just crazy. It took 5 people all day to make that thing.
Ha! That'd be kind of fun.
Just nuts. It was a fucking big.
Did people
brownie.
eat it?
It didn't say they were trying to sell it.
Oh, who's gonna buy that?
I don't know.
Nobody.
Somebody'd buy it. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Got anything else?
No.
No, I don't got anything else either. Did we miss Charlie Brown's Christmas show yet?
I think we did.
I don't know. We missed the Thanksgiving one, and I was pissed. I haven't seen it. Usually, people post it that's coming on PBS.
Oh, maybe it hasn't been on yet.
I gotta see that one at least. I don't know.
Gotta look for it.
Yep. Hey, everybody out there. We love you around the world. Peace be with you all. Whatever you're going through, whatever you got going on in your life, it can always go better and you can always move forward. We appreciate you all listening around the world. To our new friends that reached out to us, thank you so much. Also, happy birthday to our tech T. Happy birthday, T.
And he shares a birthday with my first great nephew,
Yeah.
who's super duper awesome.
Yep.
So happy birthday, guys.
Danger's his middle name.
That is for real.
For
no
real.
joke.
Danger's his middle name. Happy birthday to 2 wonderful people out there that we love dearly. And everybody, thanks for listening out there. Check us out. Weedman 420 Chronicles on Instagram. Weedman 420 Pod on Twitter. Say hello to Dive Boy. TikTok. Weedman 420 Chronicles. Pretty cool. Thanks for sending me notes and thanks for sending me funny videos. And then send us an email. Weedman420chronicles@gmail.com. We appreciate y'all listening. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puffing away.
Puff, puff, pass.